My personal information should belong to me, and I should be rewarded for giving that personal information to potential brand partners, a network, an ecosystem, and I should be benefiting out of that hundreds of billions of dollars that's being generated. It should pass on to me. And there's no better technology in the world today than blockchain and crypto economics to be able to reward the participants of the network with that type of incentive structure that makes sense. So that's what we hope that Medallion will achieve.
Welcome to the Creative Block. I'm Vince Gonzalez. Today we are here with Yossi Hasson and Federica Berra. Yossi is entrepreneur and technology executive based in New York. He is the co-founder and CEO of Metaversal, an OG Bitcoiner since 2013, and an angel investor in over 60 startups and crypto protocols. Federica is the marketing manager at Medallion Network and a multimedia artist with a background in fashion communication. But today, we're here to talk about Medallion. Medallion is a blockchain protocol designed to provide Web3 authentication and enabling ownership of digital assets, badges, tokens, and collectibles through the blockchain technology. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to learn more about this. So much appreciate your time today.
Pleasure, Vince. Always good to be on the show. Thank you for inviting us back.
Of course, of course. So Yossi, tell me in your own words, what is Medallion?
Yeah, in its basic form, Medallion is a way to verify and validate people's achievements and do it in a new medium that is better able to showcase what you have done with your life over time and enable people, brands, communities to ultimately potentially reward you for those achievements. So if you think of anything you've done, how do we verifiably showcase that and build incentives for you to continuously achieve? And we do that using blockchain technology. We call that a proof of achievement protocol. But in essence, all it does is say you ran in a marathon. How do we prove that you actually ran in that marathon? Give you a cool badge that shows that you did that. And then allow, by your choice, brand partners around the world who may want to offer you benefits for participating in that marathon, as an example. And you can think of that across any kind of achievement that has happened across your life, from small achievements like taking 10,000 steps a day to large achievements like graduating and getting your degree from whichever institution. And Medallion brings all of those achievements on-chain to create a verifiable proof that you did what you said you did, ultimately.
Wow. That's incredible. It's almost like a digital diary.
100%.
That's incredible. And why did you create this? Like, where did you see a need to do this?
Sure, yeah. It starts with a personal story. I moved from South Africa, which you can probably hear from my accents, to the US. And I had done that after having sold my company based in South Africa. I was the CEO for 12 years. I had an MBA. I moved to the US, and literally as I crossed the border, I became invisible. Anything that I had done in the past didn't really translate in the US. I couldn't get a credit score. So that means I couldn't rent an apartment. I couldn't open a bank account. I had to get a guarantor just to be able to sign on a lease. It didn't matter what was written in my LinkedIn profile of anything that I had done over time. That information was irrelevant in the US system. No one trusted it, no one could verify it, and no one cared about it. But at the same time, you mentioned in the start, I had Bitcoin, and I was able to go from one border to the next border, and my Bitcoin didn't change. People accepted it, knew it, understood it, and it belonged to me. I owned that. It was an asset. So why would my credentials be any different? Why can they not be an asset that belongs to the individual, that people globally can trust and access, and that can form new economic models? There should be a way that anyone could translate what I had achieved and whether I'm creditworthy globally, or that I could sign a lease on an apartment, or that there's some benefits that I should have access to. And that mechanism doesn't exist today, but the technology does. So that birthed the idea that my credentials should be as strong as Bitcoin in terms of what it could provide me as an individually globally. And if we think of the millions of people that, in fact, billions of people that have the same challenge, the same problem. That is why we thought Medallion as a mechanism should exist, and why blockchain is the right technology to enable that and to solve that problem for the first time.
It's super sexy to think about tokenizing luxury goods and high-end digital art, but you've approached this more as function, as an everyday function, to make it better for people as they move along this increasingly complex world. So that's really kind of a great way to think about that. It's super impressive. You wrapped your mind around that.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, as we've seen over time, and maybe fortuitously or infortuitously, we're seeing in the kind of burst of AI on the scene, and this wasn't where we started, but we're seeing that the idea of trustlessness or trust in a network is being evaporated even further, because things like AI are accelerating deepfakes. It's becoming easier than ever to falsify credentials, and this idea of almost the human touch, like this is a human experience, is becoming less and less, not necessarily valued, but less and less possible to verify. And we're hoping that Medallion really brings back that element of trust back into the human story. We call all of that collection of your medallions your personal graph. So what does Vince's personal graph look like over time? And that's both immensely valuable to the individual. It's very personal. But it is also immensely valuable to the market. If we think of platforms like Facebook, they're ultimately monetizing your personal information. You're voluntarily giving them your personal information, and they're making hundreds of billions of dollars a year out of that personal information. And we think that script should flip. My personal information should belong to me, and I should be rewarded for giving that personal information to potential brand partners, a network, and an ecosystem. And I should be benefiting out of that hundreds of billions of dollars that's being generated. It should pass on to me. And there's no better technology in the world today than blockchain and crypto economics to be able to reward the participants of the network with that type of incentive structure that makes sense. So that's what we hope that Medallion will achieve.
That's amazing. And Federica, first of all, Federica or Faye?
Oh, both works. You're pronouncing it perfectly,
Okay.
so that's fine.
Excellent, excellent. When you and I spoke, when we had like a pre-meeting about this, you had a lot of enthusiasm about it. So from your perspective, what excites you about this?
That's a great question. So I also have a personal part of the story that it's very similar to Yossi, because my family and I moved from Italy to the United States, and my mom had the same issue, like no credit score. She arrived without a credit card, and I remember she was able to sign up a lease because she paid in Bitcoin, and it was this building in 2020 that allowed her to pay in Bitcoin. And so it was interesting.
Wow.
She didn't know anything about having a wallet, but she had to figure it out. But same when I got into my master program, I almost didn't go because my grad school was not recognizing my bachelor score, even though it was the best engineering school in Europe. So they were saying like, oh no, this is not the same credits, this is not like a real undergrad, and it really was. And it took me 3 months of paying so many services of translation and thinking, oh, I'm not gonna move anymore. And like I was about to give up the opportunity to enter in a really nice grad school for which I had a scholarship, all because the credentials were not accepted. Eventually they were, but it was a really painful, slow, and expensive process. So that was one thing. And the second thing is that I think also because of my personal background, I see this very fast tech development missing a little bit of like ethical analysis, especially AI. I think we can't really, because it's growing so fast, we don't really even have the time to think about it. And the fact that the only way to contrast this is to proceed alongside with like a complementary innovation that it says, okay, like we're accepting that this is the reality, it's going fast. We're building something aside that can help slowing down and say, like, let's verify, let's fact check, let's see if everything is right. So I think it's a really ethical way to also contrast this very fast approach to the future. and it's by building. It's not by just like being in an academia talking and spending a lot of words, but then not doing anything about it. So this is why I'm really excited. And the last part is that I think the team is fantastic. I'm really super enthusiastic about the team. And I think there's also something about Metaversal that really resonates with Medallion, because sometimes we have our all hands and we have this shout out moment, and everyone is always saying like, oh, I want to thank these people for this. And for me, that was very new. I've never been in a startup where people were spending time to validate and recognize each other. So it really makes sense for me that then the develop Medallion, because they were really recognizing awards and achievements in the company already. So it was very natural, and it really reflects the company values. So I'm very happy about that.
Amazing, amazing. So in my own experience, I have 3 words for you guys: Department of Motor Vehicle. So since December, I've been there 3 times trying to get a real ID, having been completely prepared. And still I get calls like, oh, your birth date doesn't match your birth certificate. We took a photo, but we lost a photo, so you have to come back. And I could see that going forward, if you guys create something like this and somebody like the DMV recognizes it as a legitimate way to share information, all of that goes away. But, you know, I in my mind, I'm thinking about a possible pain point, because when you say those 3 words, everybody has nothing but generally a terrible experience with an organization like that.
A lot of pain, but I think that experience, Jeff, is obviously not unique, and it's not just the DMV. If you think of the friction and pain that people have to go through on a daily basis, filling in forms that they filled in 300 times before. I went to the physical therapist the other day. I must have filled in the same personal information about 5 times before I was able to be seen. And that problem applies in every industry. If you get a new job, a background check, a criminal record check, did you actually get the degree that you said you got, etc. That is being applied time and time again. The same individual is having the same checks done 100 times, and every time the organization is incurring a cost, there is friction in that system, and the experience for the end user, for the person, is pretty poor. So there's no reason why it should exist like that anymore. It's an old, outdated, paper-based system, and it's time to modernize it, and also to modernize it in a way that the individual owns that information, because it's not for me to now say Facebook should have that information. That's a dystopian future that I do not want to live in. Or Apple should have that information, or Google should have that information. There's no one company that should own that information about me and my personal profile that others can then use, like the DMV or your potential employer can use to then query that, know that it's legitimate, know that it's true, and then be able to transact much quicker and in a much more efficient way that brings down the cost and improves the experience for everyone. And then on top of that, to be able to get access to rewards that ultimately you want to be able to be part of and consume.
That's amazing. I have so many questions, but as you guys are speaking, I have so many more questions. Let me just ask you about this one that's right on the top of my mind. I would imagine that when you guys were thinking about this, you're thinking about data, about personal data from the individual, but you're probably thinking also about, if because of the way AI is going, if I do a full body scan of my likeness and a full recording of my likeness, that could also apply. Is that a fair thing to say?
Well, the way we think about it is the way I think about it is there's going to be almost 2 internets that emerge. You've got the what we're calling the authentic web, and then you have the inauthentic web. The inauthentic web is the internet that we know today, and on a longer timescale, is becoming more and more inauthentic. You can't trust the information that you're reading. You can't trust the information that you're getting. Am I really speaking to Vince on this call or not? Over time, it's going to become harder to verify that because of what you just mentioned, that you can have a recording of your likeness. A couple of minutes of your voice can now be replicated into rarely sounding like you. And how do you operate in that type of environment where you've now gone into the space of no trust? And what we're saying is that an alternative, like Faye just mentioned, needs to exist, what we call the authentic web. And the authentic web is a way to be able to validate that the person who's behind that keyboard is the person, that the content that they're producing is real, that the credentials and the achievements that they say they have are validated. And then when you have that network, when you have a validated data set of individuals, what are the applications that can be built on top of that when you have a high trust environment? All of a sudden is very different. So we see that kind of forking of those two types of worlds, and that AI is really that inflection point where it's going to say, this is going to accelerate and it's going to become an even bigger problem in the world today. I came from a business that I built in the past, which is an email security company. 98% of email is spam. We live in that world. 98% that you get is junk, and you have to have these bots and security systems actually just to filter out all of the noise. And we're going to see that happening on the internet. So what is the today's filtration system of all the noise to say, this person's a human, they're real, they've done these things, and how do we verify and validate that so that we can transact with that individual? Those are going to become core elements and systems that need to exist, and what Medallion is ultimately trying to solve for.
Amazing. Let's expand on that, on the deep fakes, because this is becoming what we're seeing now is incredibly good. Next week, it's going to be way better, not just a little bit better. And that's moving at a rapid pace. And so there's one thing for all us techies to get together and come up with a platform or a piece of software and say, yes, we can verify it. And then from the user point of view, they also still have to believe it. Do you guys think about that from how the consumers might onboard this in their lives?
Yeah, so I can try to answer by what I'm seeing right now on social media, on LinkedIn and Instagram. Now you have to verify your profile, right? And the way to verify it is just by taking a photo of your ID. So that's also like a not really secure way to verify something, because someone can have the photo of my ID. I send the photo of my passport to all my friends if they have to make like reservations or flight. Like it's on my Google Drive. Like my ID is everywhere, really. So it's not a really effective way to verify it. But if you have that check mark somewhat, like then you're also given more more visibility on the platform. I was seeing, I don't really remember the stats, but like LinkedIn was saying that you have more chances to be viewed if your profile is verified. So some systems are already saying like, oh, like we're also kind of rewarding you if you're making sure that you're a real person by giving you what we can, in our case, visibility. And I was seeing like other platforms are doing it in different ways. And if you see the check mark, somewhat you think, okay, that person is real. And more now, I think that before no one really cares. Right now I do care. If I see someone is verified, I think, okay, like that makes me feel better. Because the deep fakes, I saw some videos over the weekend are incredibly real. And we're just at the beginning. So I think more and more right now in the future, people won't even engage with a profile that is not verified. Or I'm thinking this on a larger scale with Medallion. If you don't have something that is so secure, and it's not just by taking a photo of your ID, but it has to be more. It has to be more developed and more technical, because that's not a secure way to verify anything, in my opinion. So I think that's where Medallion also can make a difference, because the blockchain technology really allows you to do that. And so far, I don't see any other credentialing system thinking about it. I'm thinking that some credentialing system out there have the blockchain element like as a marketing strategy. Some of them have like, oh, if you pay a little bit more, you can also issue your digital badge on the blockchain, but it's not MO in the sense of Medallion. Like this is all based on the sense that we want to make this forever verifiable and immutable, not just a photo.
Once you guys wrapped your mind around this thing that could work, I could imagine that you start getting excited about different industries that this can touch, right? Because this could be medical, education, manufacturing, a lot of the sort of boring, industries that really could still take advantage of something like this. And I would imagine that those ideas are still coming as you develop this.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that there is a large segment of the population who do real valuable and meaningful work, but there isn't real upward mobility in that work because there are poor systems on being able to validate and showcase that work. So I'll give you a couple of examples because we're seeing it day in and day out. Let's take the world of youth coaching. How do you tell whether one youth coach is better than another youth coach? Well, one, there's very little credentialing that exists for them today, and that's a problem that's trying to be solved. Two, you don't know how many kids they've taught, have they had any success, what kind of success have they had, and you're taking your child and you're basically saying, yeah, spend time with my child and coach them. And none of that credentialing exists, none of that upward mobility data exists today. So when we think of that example, if you're familiar with something like GitHub, for a developer, you as a developer, you'll say, just look at my GitHub. And you can tell from the work that they've done, not necessarily their degree or anything like that. In fact, you don't actually care where they got their computer science from. You look at their GitHub repository and you say, is this a world-class developer or isn't this a world-class developer? Based on the information that's there, based on the achievements and the real work that they've done. Now, in the world of coaching, it's the exact same thing. You should be able to tell, based on the achievements and the real work that this individual has done, are they a coach at the top of their game or are they just starting out? And what does that pathway look like? Teachers, cleaners, anyone, any industry, people have a track record. They have a agency and they have value in what they have done over time that is invisible to the world today, unless you have maybe a degree that's your only kind of stamp that you have. And we think that that is a very poor and archaic system, and that every day there are opportunities to be able to both recognize, showcase, validate, and reward people for the great work that they're doing. That creates that story of that individual, so that when you're now looking for the next coach, the next trainer, the next individual for your organization, you have a way of differentiating, and that will start to create upward mobility for these really valuable people in our society that currently are a little bit invisible because those systems don't exist. So to your question of like, where are we seeing how this can apply in those industries, we think that is an incredibly valuable space that isn't being solved today, that something like Medallion can tackle, and getting a lot of resonance from the organizations that are trying to solve that problem.
Federica, when you talk about this product, you walk outside your office, what does that look like? Are you going to events? Are you going to mixers? Like, what does that look like for you when you connect people with this concept?
So first of all, I can't really shut up about this. I always joke with my friends because ever since I started working at Medallion, I was only talking about credentials, and we recently went to Baltimore at the Project Play Summit, and that also touched on the question that you asked before. But something that I can't forget and will stay forever with me is that in sport, they were saying how much sport is not for young kids and underserved community vehicle to become a professional player, but it's a vehicle to go to college and to change their lives. And when I started seeing the value of that, of what credentialing something, and I have a second example. This happened last week when I went to a Shifi event. I was talking about some girls about Medallion, and a girl told me about the story about her father. He was intern at a hospital. He was just helping here and there in Argentina. And to afford to go to the med school, he was ironing the shirts of like every doctor at the end of the day. And then he was babysitting some of the kids of the doctors when they were doing night shifts. And then after 7 years, he was able to afford med school because all of these like small jobs he did. And she was saying, wow. Every time her father brings up the story, everyone like is so touched and happy. And I was thinking, see, it's like the way we look at it right now is just, we have a curriculum of, we went to med school, we did this, we did that, and that's it. And we're all the same. And if we would start like recognizing also small achievements, like I did this while I was waiting to do that, that not only speaks to, okay, you're a doctor, but you're also an extremely committed person that has sacrificed so much and never gave up, and did it with like a lot of humility. Because then like to go in the same institution that you've been working with for like in a different capacity for many years also speaks to the fact that you don't have like a really big ego. I think that would make that person way more highly employable, or I don't know, just like trustworthy than anyone else. And so I think that when I talk about it, everyone has a personal story that touches on a topic that has to do with credentialing in some way. And I know it's crazy because it, like, on one hand, it feels something so detached. Why would I need it? Why would I need another system? This is so like B2B, like, oh. But then, like, when you start tapping into personal stories, you hear so much that has to do about it. There's something that is missing. There's something that is not recognized, and we're not all equally privileged in the way we do life. But at the end of the day, we all have the same curriculum, but with different stories. So if there was a way to validate those different stories and create like a different kind of system, I think that would be extremely valuable. And it's so deeply connected to our human stories and not just to the very cold, oh, I just got a promotion, I need a medallion, I need to get my hotel rewards. Like, it's broader than that. I can see like a longer vision that it's profoundly ethical.
You and I chatted a little bit about fashion, and do you have a sense of where this might fit into the fashion world?
So we have two members in our team that are trying to build a case study there. They're thinking about it applied to the sustainable fashion. It's a way to reward people that are adopting sustainable options for fashion. One way they thought about is also to issue credentials on the materials they've used so you can verify the provenance. I worked on a project 2 years ago here in New York, and it was a collective space that was hosting different artists, and they were giving them residencies and grants to create fashion collections. That was extremely valuable because people that come from different communities internationally have a different sense of materials and culture. And I think if there was a way for which like rewards were also bringing those people working more and not making it such an elitaristic, closed environment, because it is expensive. Like, become a fashion designer is extremely expensive. You have to go to school, you have to invest in materials, in equipment, and then you have to be in the right places because the press is only some spaces. It is very, like, it's a very privileged world. And to the point before, if there was a way to, like, oh, you get a medallion, you have 30% off on some materials, you've done a marathon, but you're a fashion designer, and now you can like have access to resources that you really need. If there was kind of like a, you can pay what you need with your achievement to then create a collection, I think that would be so amazing, because there's so much potential in young designers. And I think the conversation now on sustainability and green economy can be a really good case study. But we'll see. So far, it's we're more focused on sport at the moment.
For Yossi, what do you think about the next 2 or 3 years? What do you have a sense of what that might look like as you develop this with you guys?
Yeah, next 2 or 3 years is really about getting our core issuers, we call the people that issue the medallion, the achievement as issuers, getting them on board and really working out a protocol incentive model that makes sense to be able to do this in an open and decentralized way that allows for any developer to come onto the Medallion protocol, to build applications on top of it, to understand what it is that we're doing, and to have an ecosystem of users who are on a day-to-day basis going out and saying that I want to validate that achievement, I want to be able to pull my medallion, get that badge, and be part of this platform and building that out. And that's the core focus. It's going to take at least 2 to 3 years to get to that type of critical mass. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg, because on the one side you have this ecosystem of partners and brands who say they want to build these new ways to interact with individuals, but they need the individuals. And then you have these individuals saying, well, they'd love new mechanisms to be rewarded for their achievements and to be able to validate and showcase that, but where are the brand partners? So it's about solving that chicken and egg situation, or bootstrapping that network. And we do that through a token launch, through a token incentive model, which we've seen be extremely successful in launching these other networks. So all of the focus and the attention right now is on building out that token incentive model to be able to launch the protocol over the next 6 months, and ultimately see that be successful in a way of on-ramping new users to validate their achievements and showcase them, and then to be able to attract the network of partners that are going to build all these amazing applications on top of the protocol.
Incredible. And you might be a little gun shy about talking about what partners you're talking to, but have there been conversations that surprised you with potential partners that surprised you in terms of it being a fit?
Yeah, well, actually, the core insight that we use coaching as an example came to us from without you mentioning their name, they're a top 50 brand in the world with seemingly unlimited resources. That insight came to us as saying this is an area that if we could help solve would be a huge unlock for them, and potentially a very significant partnership coming out of that relationship through that type of channel. So those conversations are emerging, and we are seeing that there is a huge appetite. Maybe people aren't vocal about it, but there is a huge appetite to displace the Facebooks of the world, to be able to more authentically interact with people's communities, to own those communities, and to be able to share in the growth of those communities without this kind of middleman in between.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you guys are aware of Warpcast, which is sort of a on-chain competitor to
of course
Twitter, basically. And the verification was a digital wallet as opposed to a login and sign in. So I was sort of excited to be invited to that early on, and it's, as watching it develop, completely dovetails with what you guys are trying to do as well.
The way Medallion works is we integrate with they call them DID, distributed IDs. Warpcast has its own DID. So we're building the ability to integrate with a Warpcast wallet. And right now, if you are a developer on Warpcast, you're building cool applications, every week there's what they call the Builder Awards. And you get awarded with some tokens for winning that award. We're creating a medallion for being a Builder Award winner. So it's one way that we're just integrating with the ecosystem to say, if you get your Builder Award on Warpcast for building something cool, not only do you get some DGen tokens, you can also claim your medallion that will come with some medallion benefits, but another way just to validate and verify and showcase the achievements that you are achieving out there in a Web3 way.
So exciting. This is really incredible. So let's go through a process here. Let's say I hear about what you're doing. I want to be a part of it. What does that look like from a new user?
So right now we're running a beta program. So we're giving access to the program for free for a couple of months. And we're asking for feedback. And then the Medallion Network will be free to the user for 2 years. What it looks like is, and maybe this is a disclaimer, but we're working with people who need to award communities. So a user that only needs to award themselves is not a case for us at the moment. We're looking for someone who has at least 10 people to reward. And then they can sign up to the beta program. I can give you the link after the chat. It's a very simple form. We're only asking for your name, the company you work for that you're looking to reward, and then your cohort size and how many people you're looking to reward in the next 90 days. Then we jump on a discovery call to hear where the needs are, how we can. We're also very open to, explore different case studies. So we've been really trying to adapt to the client needs. Some they were saying like, oh, I need a very specific thing, and you were trying to provide that. We had one creator that wanted to reward the Discord community, for instance, and that was very different from, rewarding educational programs, or we just onboarded the whole business school. And that was their first Web3 badge that they ever had, and they were extremely proud of it. So every case study is different, and really looking to work with every of them. And then on after the discovery call, if they're interested, we do a product call with the product team. If there are more specific questions, usually it's about API, or if something is really highly technical and they need to talk to developers. And then we proceed with the onboarding. For the onboarding, we make in-house the design of the medallion. We only ask for the logo or just very basic branding assets, and then we create the medallions for them. I heard people and customers being very, very happy about the design. The design is something that they really appreciate it, and they use it for their marketing as well. And then they can just start issuing. They're onboarded on the platform, and I can create a set of milestones. So maybe they say like, oh, I want the user to complete X number of steps before having a medallion, or it can be fast tracked and they receive it immediately. And also when you sign up for being a beta program, you automatically receive the Medallion beta program, and that has already some benefits in it. We just onboarded 2 partners. One of them is a luxury hotels membership. I was exploring it last week. It's really nice. I'm definitely gonna like book my holidays with them. Yeah, so this is where we are at right now. So if anyone is interested in joining the beta program, we're very happy to, having a conversation about it.
Excellent. Well, I have tons of ideas about what I'm doing. We'll talk offline. And this is a little off topic, but I just wanted to ask it because this is kind of a question that's come up for me. And I think for you, Yossi, it's a great question because I'm having sometimes people young creatives or builders that are coming up that are sometimes feeling a little intimidated by the stuff that they're seeing rolled out. It's like teams of people and big budgets and big marketing campaigns. And yet you have oceans of people that are just individual creatives, that are kind of going along, but this whole thing about what they're seeing on socials is sometimes really intimidating. Do you have words for smaller individuals that, this space should be completely nurturing to them, and there's a lot of opportunity, but sometimes there's a lot of noise and they get a little lost. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think, there is definitely a lot of noise, and it can be intimidating and discouraging to think that everyone is much further ahead than you are, and how are you actually going to get to wherever it is that you want to get to. And my message to those individuals is kind of just look down, not up. And when I say look down, like look down at the work that you're doing, keep focusing on that, and ultimately that will kind of reveal the truth in terms of what it is that you're trying to build. And the people that are usually with the largest megaphones that are making the most noise, the old saying is a coin in a can makes the loudest noise, like a little, that an empty can makes the loudest noise. So there's obviously not a lot of substance there. And there really isn't a better time to be a creator. Even with all the noise, you have platforms that can amplify your message, can give you more reach. And when I started as a founder, you needed hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars just to launch a website and to be able to build some technology. Now you can do it at a click of a button. So you also have immense opportunity. So my message to any creator out there is kind of put your head down, do the work, and don't look up and see all of the shiny objects, because that's just a lot of noise.
Well said. Well said. Before we close, is there anything else you guys want to add to discuss or fill in gaps that I may have missed?
Well, it'd be remiss to say, well, go to the Medallion Network, medallion.network, sign up for a beta. We're looking for early issuers who believe in validating and showcasing achievements of their communities and thinking of new ways to be able to recognize and reward them. So if you are one of those people, whether you're big or small, come and talk to us, and we'd love to chat.
Very exciting. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I think this is really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it, watching it develop and grow, and happy to participate in any way I can. So wishing you guys the best of luck, and super grateful to have you back. So really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting us.